Last time I talked about chapter 109 from Vagabond, and the things I said was basically along the lines of this is arguably the best chapter in the entire series, so that got me thinking, what other chapters could even compete with that? Are there any that are just as good? And luckily, through basically skimming the rest of the entire series, I found a couple of chapters that I'm going to go a little bit in depth on, and today that's going to be chapter 189. And the title of this chapter is Burdened, and that fits the actual theme, especially with Seijuro, perfectly. But without holding it up any longer, let's go ahead and talk about chapter 189. Now, the actual way that this chapter is structured is a little bit different because we're not seeing the whole fight in one chapter. This is after they've already had a little bit of a battle, and this would actually be their final strike. Either Musashi's going to win and of course live, or he's going to lose and die. It's one or the other. And of course that same thought process also applies to Seijuro. And it's right before this final strike that we get a little bit more insight into what the actual Yoshioka style is, and that's putting your entire self into the sword. Seijuro's inner monologue quite literally says that's the Yoshioka style. And right after this, we get a flashback to Seijuro's childhood, which is vastly different from basically any character we've seen in the entire series. But we actually don't see Seijuro for at least a couple of pages because all we're looking at this point is a prisoner and the samurai guarding him, whether that's his executioner or whatnot. It's not really specified, but we do eventually find out who it is. But the samurai guarding the prisoner frees his binds and gives him a sword and says, "Fight for your life." And that's when we see Seijuro finally. He comes out of grass that is taller than him, and upon seeing this boy, the prisoner is smiling, which is something that I couldn't really say I would do, because in all honesty, if a kid walks up to me with the utmost confidence that he's going to kick my ass, or in this case, kill me, I don't think I'd really want to fight him regardless. One, either the kid's going to be crazy, or two, it's just going to be super embarrassing to actually end up dying that way, losing to somebody that's that young. And then the samurai that was guarding the prisoner says, "Seijuro, this will be nothing like practicing at the dojo." And here it basically heavily implies, basically telling us that this is Seijuro's father, and this is the kind of things that he has Seijuro doing. And then we get some more of Seijuro's inner monologue. He says perfecting one's skills, cultivating one's ki. And I looked up ki for a little bit to kind of try and figure out what exactly it really is, because of course most of what I've seen from ki is like Dragon Ball and stuff that's super fantastical and has no real basis in reality, which is completely the opposite of what Vagabond actually is. So I wanted to kind of look at it from a philosophical approach, which is historically more of what ki actually is. And the best way, or really the only way I can think of to describe ki, is that it's this inner feeling, this vague inner feeling that you can kind of focus and put into different directions. And there's probably some type of scientific explanation that can really explain why humanity has made stuff like this, like ki, chi, chakra, all these inner energies. Whether that's some type of chemical that's inside of us that makes us kind of feel certain ways, I don't really know, but I thought focusing on the ki aspect of this chapter was at least pretty interesting to me. But jumping back into it, of course he said perfecting one's skills, cultivating one's ki, and following the way of putting everything into the sword. That's of course the Yoshioka style. And this leads to one of Musashi's best inner monologues throughout the entire story. He says, "I'm grateful for this life, this man. I can put everything I have up against him. O gods of war, I thank you for my very existence." Now this might not seem like much, especially if you haven't read Vagabond, but contrast this to chapter 21 when he's saying, "I'm the son of a demon and I deserve to die." That entire chapter was really about him finding some type of will to live on. And then jump forward over 150 chapters and he's thanking the gods of war for his existence. And then it's the next page that really gets me. It just shows how amazing Inoue is at telling a story without even using words. And this page is basically just showing how focused Musashi is. He's starting to drool from his mouth because he is so focused. And then upon seeing this, Seijuro kind of cracks under the pressure. You can tell that it's heavily affecting him. He's feeling the weight of his responsibility. He's the leader, the head of the Yoshioka clan, and he has to live with that burden. While Musashi, on the other hand, doesn't really have any of that. He's a man that mostly lives really free. And that leads to arguably my favorite 2-page spread in the entire series. It's Seijuro, and behind his strike is the entire Yoshioka clan, showing just how heavy of a burden being the heir, being the head of this clan really is. And to really hammer the points I just said home, the final page says, in this fleeting moment, his focus diverted by the weights of his burden, Yoshioka Seijuro was cut down in Rendaiji Field. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I do have a couple of other chapters that really caught my attention like this one. And hopefully with each one of these that I make, I can improve significantly upon the last one. That's always the goal. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'm out.